Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the Film Buds podcast. This is episode 164, should be. And my name is Henry.
And I'm Paul.
And once again, we are joined by our friend Nick Delgadillo. Nick, man, it's nice to see you. You froze.
And I'm Nick.
Yeah, there we go.
Hey, man. So, yeah, this week we have a pretty good show. We have a review of Zack Snyder's Justice League, which is currently on HBO Max. And then depending on how long that goes, we might do some other stuff we watched or something like that, or we may just call it quits after that. I'm sure it will be exhausting at that point.
There's a lot to talk about.
Yeah. So we'll just see how it goes. So thanks again for joining us. Guys, it's good to see you. How you doing? Nick?
How you doing?
Well, you know, I watched Zack Snyder's Justice League last night, so I'm in a fantastic mood, obviously.
Okay.
Paul?
I'm doing pretty well. I watched the movie Saturday. I did it all in one sitting on Saturday. I wanted to rip the Band-Aid off. I thought about breaking it up into sections and watching it over time, but I was like, no, if I leave for any amount of time during the viewing, I will not finish it. So
yeah. See, Paul, I was going to tell it later. I watched this in about 5 or 6 sittings. So
okay.
Almost chapter by chapter. So we all
Okay.
have different perspectives.
I took one break, and that's because of my infamously horrendous internet connection.
That's fair.
It tried to spare me.
Yeah.
I was trying to warn you. The app crashed 3 times while I watched it.
You know, I think part of it is HBO Max itself also. I don't know whether it's just that title because so many people are watching it right now, or if it's just HBO Max is like that.
I think the app it's always bad for me. Like it's always freezing. And so I think it's just a stinker of an app.
Yeah, I had trouble watching. I watched Man of Steel and Batman v Superman beforehand also, and I had the same problems. Have to keep like exiting out and coming back in and over and over.
Yeah.
I think it's just the app's fault.
Yes. I guess the only thing in-house thing to mention is we have some new merchandise at the online store, which you can get through TheFilmBuds.com or TheMusicBuds.com. It's all the same store, but we have new hoodies, sweatpants, coffee mugs, all things like that, stickers. And so you can check that out. And as always, the proceeds just go to help support the upkeep of the show. So we always appreciate when people do that. And the merchandise it's actually, it's not half bad. So win-win. Or at least I think so. Could be wrong. But check that out. Guys, anything you want to mention before we get started?
No, I'm good.
All right. Well, I guess with all that said, we can get into our review of Zack Snyder's Justice League. And we do have a clip, so take a listen. All right. Well, I'm all good to go if you guys are.
Yeah.
Cool. All right. So as I said, Zack Snyder's Justice League is on HBO Max currently, and it's directed by Zack Snyder, actually. And it stars Ben Affleck, Henry Cavill, Amy Adams, Gal Gadot, whichever one, Ray Fisher, Jason Momoa, Ezra Miller, Willem Dafoe, Jesse Eisenberg, Jeremy Irons, Diane Lane, Connie Nielsen, J.K. Simmons, Syrian Hines, Amber Heard. Am I missing anybody?
Probably, but
It's hard to tell in this thing.
Yeah.
There's a lot.
Did you say Billy Crudup?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
And also that Joe Manganiello.
Mm-hmm.
That guy, yeah. And
there's a severe lack of Lawrence Fishburne in this movie, and
for sure.
And it hurts it.
Yeah.
It was felt severely.
He's great.
Yeah. And the synopsis is Zack Snyder's definitive director's cut of Justice League, determined to ensure Superman's ultimate sacrifice was not in vain. Bruce Wayne aligns forces with Diana Prince with plans to recruit a team of metahumans to protect the world from an approaching threat of catastrophic proportions. So, big deal there. Um, well, this one, of course, it was a long time coming. Of course, there is the previous or the original quote unquote, or I don't even know what you would call it, the Justice League from a few years ago that Joss Whedon came on to, and this is Zack Snyder's definitive version, and people were just frothing at the mouth for it for a while, and it's finally here. And yeah, so I guess since it is a big movie, we can do no spoilers first, and then if we have some spoiler stuff, we can do that at the end if y'all are cool with it. Or
I feel like on a certain level, spoilers almost don't matter, just because like there isn't
Been out
much
for 4 years, technically.
really all that different at the
That's
end
true.
of the day. I mean,
That's
we
true.
can try and hold off on, I guess, like as much of sort of the spoilery footage as we can for as long as we can.
Yeah, sure.
And then eventually, we do have to eventually talk about the elephant in the room, I think, which is how they're different.
Yeah. Yeah, that's fine with me. I was just doing that to be almost out of obligation. So that's
fair.
Yeah.
Courtesy.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Well, okay. I mean, there's a lot to unpack here. I guess, Nick, you're a guest. Would you like to kick things off for us? What did you
Sure.
think of the definitive cut of Justice League?
Well, where to begin?
Getting out the drink. He's got to stay hydrated.
Okay. It is hard to know where to begin with this. So I'm not as I guess brushed up on the DCEU as like, it's all disjointed and everything. I saw Man of Steel in theaters. And it really killed off a lot of interest I had in the series going forward after that. But so I rewatched that over the weekend. I watched Batman v Superman for the first time. I watched the Ultimate Edition, like the 3-hour cut. I guess the Snyder cut that as well. Oh man, it's hard to for me personally, it's really hard to get into it as much because I don't know, maybe it's because of lack of like build up, in my opinion. I mean, I guess it's still there. But they throw so much stuff at you, and it's hard to determine what part we're supposed to latch onto.
Mm-hmm.
Everything has such grand importance, and Zack Snyder's style. Like, what I like about these movies is that, for the most part, they're so much more visually interesting than what a lot of Marvel does, I think. I like the way Zack Snyder directs action for the most part. I think what he does here with some of the powers, like I think Flash's powers look really cool in this movie. Wonder Woman looks cool. When she's fighting people, I really like. This is all disjointed. I'm gonna say
You're fine.
My main.
That's
point.
our thing.
There in all of these movies, there are parts that I really like that I can like single out by themselves. Like when I try to put them in part of the larger story, then it just falls apart for me. But there are individual moments in these movies that I really love. Batman v Superman, the opening with Bruce Wayne's perspective during the Battle of Metropolis at the end of Man of Steel. I really like that. I love that. I think that's great stuff. I think there's equally as great stuff here. I like Ray Fisher. I like Cyborg's introduction. I know he gets a longer, fleshed out backstory here compared to the theatrical version. I like Diana's intro. I like the bank. It's not a bank, is it? No.
It's like a courthouse.
Yeah, whatever. The some terrorist group that she stops. I like I like the very intro with Bruce Wayne going to recruit Aquaman. But this goes into like the weird length, and I think Zack Snyder has a really hard time. I don't know if it's him or the script or a combination of both, but has a hard time with pacing. So like characters are introduced and then reintroduced again. Like Aquaman gets like 3 separate introductions. I feel like we have when Bruce Wayne meets him, and then again when he saves that guy off of the ship, and then again when he talks to Willem Dafoe.
Great scene.
It has Willem Dafoe. It's a beautiful work of art.
It's true.
Man, it is hard for me to nail like a definitive thing to say about these movies.
Would you say? I mean, not to cut you off. Would you
No,
say
you're
you
good.
enjoyed it overall, or is it
I
no pass?
enjoy parts of it.
Okay.
Enjoy parts of it, and other. I wouldn't say I was bored. Even for 4 hours, I wasn't bored. I was pretty tuned in for most of it. I never lost my interest. But I don't, so much of it I just don't find very compelling. The villains are pretty I just don't get motivation as far as like the main baddie goes. I like Steppenwolf actually. I don't know the difference between how he is in the original version versus this one. I think it's a fine and as bland as like we're just gonna destroy the universe, take over the world, whatever. As it is, I like Steppenwolf's. I like they give him his big puppy dog eyes. In some scenes, I like his whole thing is like I'm gonna redeem myself. That's something at least.
Would you recommend this to a loved one?
I would recommend it to a loved one if they were already very invested in this.
Okay. That's
I guess at the end of the day, that's who it was for. That's who it was asking for it. I don't know. Why don't you guys on this, and I can.
Paul, you want to go or shall I?
You know what? I'll take a swing at it. I think that this movie, because he was kind of given, I know that he says that there were still rules in place that he had with it, but when you hit 4 hours of runtime, you don't have a lot of fucking rules. And I think that it's pretty obvious that he just kind of ran rampant with the thing, and I think the problem is it allowed him to sort of give in to every indulgence that he possibly has, that results in like some of the worst parts of every Zack Snyder movie. So I think that
you get the best and the worst of his style, and amplified as far as it can go.
And I think that it's so choppy and so scattered that the film ends up losing a lot of its urgency, and I think it just ends up feeling like a whole bunch of weird, very, very lengthy character intros for 3 of our characters, along with like just sort of a spinning their wheels stuff until eventually the team comes together.
You didn't like Ezra Miller's introduction?
I mean, there are things about it that are like fine, but the problem is we can't just like necessarily look at the pieces of it that are fine. We got to look at the whole thing, and like the pieces that are fine are then end up scattered in between scenes of like no consequence or little consequence. And you're now trying to keep up with so many things. I tried to explain the plot to a group of friends, not a group of friends, but 2 friends. And essentially the way that I ended up explaining it, the easiest way to explain it was by going by like character.
Yeah.
in their kind of chronological strip, because if you try to tell it in the sequence of the movie, you're going to get lost within the first like 15 fucking minutes.
Yeah.
So ultimately, I think that it's kind of a disaster, honestly, and like at least it's his disaster, I guess, you know. But I think that for the most part, it's kind of a fucking mess, and I think that that's also why the other one didn't work. Was at its core, I think that there were fundamental problems with this movie, and the truth is, I think that somewhere in the middle of these two films is probably where the most ideal version of this story is.
Yeah, it's exactly what you said. How like there are some great moments, I think, that are strewn about and like that are next to not so great moments.
Yeah.
Because this in particular, I mean, honestly, for all of them, Man of Steel is like 2.5 hours long. Batman v Superman 3 hours. All long movies.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just the same deal in all of them, where it's like the the parts don't come together to make a cohesive and compelling enough story for me, as no matter how much I like an individual scene or moment. It's like Ezra Miller's introduction. I don't like when this movie is trying to be funny at all. I don't like any of the jokes in this movie.
You didn't like the hot dog wiener?
Oh, you reminded me of that.
Great stuff there.
I shut that one out. I like his. I would like if his introduction was just him with his dad, in prison. I think that is good. That I do not know that actor who plays his dad, but he's pretty great in that scene.
Yeah.
The stuff with him going to get a job, not so much, because he's just hamming it up there, and later on as well.
Yeah.
You have Cyborg's intro. I like Cyborg's backstory, but then once he actually is Cyborg, ironically enough, I guess, like I lose what I liked about it at the start. I don't know. I don't know if it's Ray Fisher himself, or if he just struggles to, or if this was like the direction they gave him, or if he just struggles to act outside of the all CG, like almost entirely CG thing he's got going on. But I lose the performance in there. I feel like it's played very stoic, and again, that could be a direction like you're a cyborg, like you kind of act like a robot, I guess. But he's very one note from then on out for me, because he's like a brooding, he's angry, I guess is what he's going for there. But I lose it.
Henry, what did you think of the movie?
I don't know.
It's hard.
There are. I mean, it's kind of similar to, I guess, to what you've both said. I think there are parts I really enjoy, and there are parts that are brutal. Like the slow-mo is out of control in this.
Yeah.
Like the first 2 chapters, there is too much. Like I felt like every other scene we were getting 2 or 3 slow-mo shots, and I was like, oh my god, let's like I get it. Like, but I think oh, go ahead.
Yeah, I read a great piece. I can't remember what website it was on, but it's about how Zack Snyder, he uses like that style so indiscriminately that it's impact. And it's like an example was like, you get like a slow-mo shot of like Steppenwolf in his armor and everything to emphasize the importance of that, and it's immediately followed up with like an equally as it seems like important shot of like the product placement razor that that Ben Affleck is using.
Yeah.
Right. And it's like when everything is made to like look so important, everything's like in slow-mo and everything. I'm like, what is actually significant and what's not? What's being emphasized and what's not being emphasized is lost because everything is just being emphasized.
Yeah, I agree. And I think with what you had said, Nick, a while back, I like the look of Zack Snyder's movies most of the time. It's cartoonish, but for some reason I enjoy it. And so visually, I thought the movie was interesting. I know he's kind of polarizing. I really like Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne, and I think aside from the voice modifier, I really like him as Batman. I think at times it's a little too electronic to where it sounds fake.
Yeah.
But I really
I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I wish we had his solo movie.
Same. Yeah.
That was planned. The Batman voice is whatever. My question is why he uses it at all in this movie when he's only around people that know who he is already.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, that's a good point. And as always, I like Gal Gadot, and Wonder Woman. I think, and Paul, and we should say this, you and I, as well as Jacob Bowers, we reviewed the first 6 or 7 DC films on the DC Cinematic Universe show, which you can get on TheFilmBuds.bandcamp.com for just $1 donation, Nick. I don't know if you knew that, Nick. Just a $1 donation.
Get ready for that $1 donation.
Yeah. Anyhow, one
$1
thing with
richer.
Yes. Minus the Bandcamp cut, so a little bit less, but that's okay.
Oh no.
Less than $1 richer.
I remember saying when we reviewed the first Justice League, I couldn't tell what was going on in that, and that was a big issue. And in this, it's the same thing. It's worse. I can identify Steppenwolf on screen. I know when he's there. I couldn't tell you why he was doing what he was doing, who his overlords were, why they were doing what they were. The voices were brutal, I thought.
Yeah.
Too overdone. But so the villain side of things, I didn't enjoy. I always like the Wonder Woman, her character, as well as her group. I think that whole world is very interesting. And so whenever they were on screen, I thought it was quite good. I really don't like Ezra Miller. I don't really like him off in other things, and I don't really like him
as
in
a
this.
person.
I've heard he's a pretty bad person as well, but I that's conversation for another time.
Yeah, I like all the Amazonian stuff. I like the chase. It's like the keep the box away from Steppenwolf and everything. I thought fun. I like the fight in the dome where the box is being held.
Yeah.
Wonder Woman is cool, but she has the same problem in this movie that she has in Batman v Superman. So not as much to the extent of Batman v Superman, where it's really like, I don't understand why this character is here at all, who contributes next to nothing. She doesn't really have an arc in this movie. And I couldn't tell you what her thing is. Just stop the bad guys. She doesn't have any like personal character journey. She doesn't change. She doesn't learn anything.
I'm not really sure that anyone has an arc, though.
I think Amber Heard does. It's a pretty compelling.
And I guess maybe this is also like a part of the issue with the acting, but like if these characters do have an arc, then I'm not sure that these characters act like they do.
I think Cyborg has an arc. I think Aquaman has an arc at the start that ends like halfway through the movie. And then it's an arc. I think Cyborg is one who's consistently but he also, it's kind of solved way too quickly because, he starts out and he's like, I don't want to help.
Yeah.
It's like, well, no, I'm gonna help.
So I think that one big issue that I have with this movie is that for me, these characters don't spend enough time together interacting with each other for me to have any real sense of how they feel about each other.
Yeah, there's no conflict, unlike a lot of other team up movies like this.
And like, you don't necessarily need conflict, but I think that you need to at least have some sort of way to get these people talking to each other so that I can figure out what's going on in their head a little bit more. It's fine that Bruce is the one that goes and like gets all of these people together, but I think that, I think it's weird that Wonder Woman is the one that ends up talking to Cyborg. It feels like since he's Atlantean, we should have a sort of otherworldly person as well go and contact him. And so I just think that this movie makes weird choices that ends up leaving all of our characters very isolated for very long stretches of the movie.
Yeah.
In scenes that don't amount to anything.
Yeah, and one thing before we get too far, I will say one thing I did love was the Cyborg origin story. I thought that worked really well for me. I thought that because that's something that is not in the first cut, and I thought that part of the film I was really into. I thought football in the snow, amazing stuff.
It's what's so strange because it's like it's the best character introduction, I think, and I think he's the last. I don't know if Ezra Miller, I don't know if Barry Allen's introduced after or not, but it's like over by the time we get to him.
Yeah.
Yeah, and like I said, he's the only one that I feel like has an actual arc. So it's strange to me. The choices are bizarre. Like I would have made this, and it would have been a cool choice in my opinion to have the focus and have the main characters actually be Barry and Cyborg, because they're the two real newcomers. They're the only two that haven't had their own solo movie. They're the two that are the most, I guess, like fallible. They're the most like on the ground, like normal-ish people.
Yeah. And one issue also, since this has come after Aquaman, all the scenes with her with Jason Momoa and Amber Heard where he's like thinking about becoming Aquaman, it's like, we know you do that. And so we're having to watch like 20-30 minutes of exposition to something that we know is going to happen. And it's like, go ahead.
Well, and they also start to bring up like your wicked brother, King Orm. It feels
half brother.
Yeah. It feels very email equivalent, from like Batman versus Superman of like we're hinting at what's coming.
Here's where I think is the main problem with all of these movies, and this movie really just encapsulates it, is that like 2/3 of these movies are exposition and setting up for future sequels and spinoffs.
Yeah.
Instead of just focusing on like the task at hand, on like the story being told right now.
Yeah.
Especially, and this one is the most bizarre one at all for me. Like, I get that this was what he originally intended, but because we know that they're not continuing on with this as of right now, I guess, it is so strange that so much of this movie is setting up future installments that, again, as of this moment, are not going to happen. So it's just like, why should I care?
Yeah.
Well, and like some of that even
time to this.
Some of that even came in during the reshoot specifically. The Batman versus Joker stuff, he said, was specifically because the fans never got to see, Batman and Joker, these two versions of them together on screen. And so, I specifically put that in the reshoots. I added that. I wanted that.
I wish he hadn't.
Oh, see, now let me.
It looked like absolute dog shit. Like, it visually was distractingly awful. I was like, hold fucking still.
Paul, can I just say here, I loved it.
Ah, God fucking damn it, Henry.
Is it the best part of the movie, Henry?
People probably are like cutting off right now. That's fine. I mean, I've said it on the show many times before. I really like Jared Leto's Joker. I can just say that. I know it's goofy and I know it's out there, but Paul, I got to rewatch The Little Things. I feel like it might be a misunderstood masterpiece. I don't know.
No, it's not. It's Jared Leto doing whatever the fuck he wants for a paycheck for a little while.
Yeah. But nevertheless, for better or worse, he makes things memorable. I like him as Joker, and so that was actually a scene that stuck out to me as one that I enjoyed. And if people want to shame me for it, that's fine. But I really like him. It's visually, we can talk about that. But the performance and the look of Joker, I love.
This scene actually brings up a great issue that I have with the whole movie that I mentioned, which is like a lack of urgency. So they show this whole montage of, leading up to the Nightmare universe. By the way, spoilers. We forgot to kind of put that out there, I think, but
That's
oh well,
fine.
Who cares?
He's in the trailer.
Yeah, everyone knows. Everybody knows it. So it's in the Nightmare universe, and the parademons fly by, and everyone pops out of hiding. They're shitty, out of nowhere hiding spots, very Resident Evil. And
yes,
suddenly they're like, we can't stay out here long, he'll find us. And then we just let these two characters monologue at each other for an aggressively long time. And that's after Mira has a whole, I'll tell you what I do for what he did to my man. Everyone gets a little fucking moment to just like go
these
out
are, and
there.
I don't like the nightmare scenes in Batman v Superman either. Like to me, it kills all the momentum that's going on because it has no real impact on what I'm watching. It
Mhm.
is to set up future. It is to tease future stuff. Like the dialogue is meaningless.
And it's not even just tease, it's like verbatim tell you, because he's now
Yeah,
told us verbatim what his
that's my bigger
planned
issue.
other films were. Go ahead, Henry.
I was just gonna say, okay, I totally agree with you, but I love it.
Henry, no.
When it like in Batman v Superman, when it cuts to that, I have no idea what's going on. Still don't. I've seen that movie. I love it though. Visually, I love it. I like the really dark, like nightmare version of Batman. I like the creatures that he fights. I like the choreography of that. And then in this film, when it cuts to that, I really enjoy it. It may just, if it wasn't as visually interesting, I might not be as uh, uh I may not like it as much, but I actually do like that. For better or worse, I enjoy
I
that.
mean, just give us that movie then. Quit sticking these random moments from like what feels like a completely separate thing
I totally agree.
of what I'm currently trying to watch.
Yeah. No,
Well,
I
and-
totally, I would love to have a movie just set in that world. That's what I
Sure.
would love.
Well, and he has now said that this was the third part of a 5-part trilogy. That's like the direct
Hmm.
kind of quote about what this story was. And it's like, no, you don't get to suddenly, have 5 films to tell a trilogy. You've literally defeated the entire fucking concept. And you can be like, oh, well, it's how it's narratively structured. And you can go and fuck yourself with that argument. Because that's just indulgent. You just need to get there. If you want to get there, get there. It's
Yeah.
absolutely ludicrous that he keeps on doing all of these extended verbatim, this is what the future is. Like, it's not even like an option. And it leads to stupid dialogue like, the future is rooted in the past, or whatever the fuck the computer says when the mother box falls.
Let me say this. I if it's from the comic books, that's fine. But whoever idea it was for the term mother box, brutal. Like, and whoever decided to put that so frequently in the script, every time someone said, we need to connect the mother boxes together, we need to go get the mother box, or when someone's running around with this huge like GameCube looking thing, it was the worst. Like
The
you could
Allspark
change
when it shrunk.
exactly.
It is
Like when,
the Allspark.
yeah, like when you could like either change the term or just have it be less frequent in terms of someone saying it, because it took me out of the movie every time when someone would say mother box.
Just shorten it to like the box or something.
Yeah,
Did you like when he was talking about the scent of the mother box?
I love it.
Yeah.
Smell? You got to follow the smell of the mother box.
Yeah. Now, I guess it was in the original cut. One emotional beat that I do like is when Clark reconnects with his mom. I think that works well for me. It's not a long moment, but I think there are a few emotional beats that throughout the 4-hour film that I enjoy. That's one.
I like any scene with Clark back in Smallville on the farm. I like all the scenes in Man of Steel of him growing up and everything. I think that's where that movie is most compelling for me. It has to do with how I feel like this cinematic universe is just so rushed. I wish we had more time with really getting into who these people are, what they want.
Yeah, because like if we contextualize this back to like when it came out, this was just after Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, Batman versus Superman, and Man of Steel. And the only ones that really matter directly to this story are Man of Steel and Batman versus Superman.
Yeah.
And so like this was essentially like the third movie.
Yeah.
It was like the sixth movie in terms of like It's just insanity. Like it's such grandeur so early that, then afterwards it's like, what do you do? Where do you go? How do you do anything
Yeah.
more with this? And
Yeah,
also,
and
oh, go ahead.
we talked about this with the way Marvel does it. Also, is how they slowly build the stakes until Thor: The Dark World goes too far.
Yeah.
But um, but the stakes in every one of these movies is cataclysmic. Man of Steel right off the bat, world's gonna end.
Yeah.
Superman, world's gonna end again. Like, so we don't build up to like, this is the big team up movie. This is like a threat that they have to come together to beat. They cannot beat individually, even though Superman could.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Well, and
Their issue, but
yeah, I hate how up Superman's ass this movie is, because honestly, I really would have preferred if, like, for the first Justice League movie, especially since he was supposed to be like dead, if we had had like one movie where they beat a bad guy without Superman.
it's more compelling
Yeah. The
because you're like,
problem
well, I
is
don't know if they will win, right? But Superman just
he's here.
whatever
It's
tension
over.
is there
Yeah.
because we know that he's unstoppable. We know he's going to save the day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, you have Ezra Miller setting it up, saying, "I'm not going to say it. I'm not going to be the one to say it."
Oh,
But no, I agree. It's like there was all this exposition about bringing Superman back, like, oh, he's so great. He was my hero. But like, I don't, at a certain point, I just don't really care about that. I want to have them talking about other things. It's like Superman is fine. Maybe have him come at the very, very end. But like, he's not all that interesting in the big scheme of things. At least in this film.
Well, and Nick, you were talking about how you weren't sure if it was Ray Fisher or the script or what, but Man of Steel, how does he contextualize, sort of his version of Superman? Brooding, angsty, burdened with fucking glorious power,
yeah.
And that's exactly what he does here. And it's this kind of, great power is such a burden. It's a curse, and it's a struggle to embrace it, and it sucks. It just sucks the air out of everything, because then that character can't be anything but that.
And it's tough because like it loses the stakes and the tension because Superman is such an all-powerful character.
Yeah.
And there's no kryptonite in this movie. Like he's not gonna lose.
Yeah.
It's not just Superman. It's not just Superman either. Like most of the Justice League is just so overpowered, in my opinion.
Yeah.
That's hard to worry about them at all. Wonder Woman is like equally as unstoppable. Aquaman, they're, and I get the point is that like they're gods, right? They're mythic beings. That's the whole thing here. But you lose all tension there. Like the most like vulnerable out of them is Batman, but even still, we don't really see him get washed. The one we see get hurt is the Flash.
Yeah, and he heals himself.
And he can heal himself, and he's equally as unstoppable. He can control time, and like
yeah.
Cyborg also should be more fallible, but he's like beyond Ultron and Vision in terms of like what he can do with his powers. Like you say right off the bat, he can like launch every nuke in existence.
Yeah, it's like, are we not going to talk about that a little bit more?
Can do whatever he wants. That's a very strange thing to me. Is when his dad, like, I'm not just gonna give you a cyber body to keep you alive. I'm also gonna make you the most like dangerous being on the planet. I'm gonna give that to this teenager, this young adult here, and hopefully he can handle it, even though he's already like in a rage.
Yeah.
Well, and actually, so this brings up an issue that I have with the movie as well, which is like, I don't know what the fuck time is. Like, how long ago did Superman die? How long ago did he have the accident? How long ago did his dad leave him that tape compared to when some of this other shit is happening? The mother box starts acting up in Themyscira, and then the queen comes in almost like an hour later. and is like, how's it doing? And I'm like, are you just now getting here, or have you been waiting for days?
And if the mother boxes, if that one woke up like right when Superman died, right?
Hmm. With the shout heard around the world, stupid as well.
At the very minimum, like months have passed
Yeah.
since then. So they've just been ready for months, which is funny. But there's the scene with Lois Lane, and you see she has a pregnancy test
Hmm.
Oh yeah,
in
great
the
stuff.
drawer. And Zack Snyder went and confirmed also that Lois Lane is supposed to be pregnant. And
Yeah.
this, that doesn't really add anything at all, but it's a thing. But
He was also supposed to have the romance with Bruce as well.
Yeah, and Alfred has a line to Batman where he says it's been a long time since Lex's warning about a threat.
Oh, okay.
So again, I'm like, it had to have been months then. Very minimum months have passed. If Lois Lane is pregnant, she knows, like, she would be well along at this point.
You know, guys, that whole timeline that you just
That's a small nitpick, but
it makes total sense.
Yeah.
it's what you were going. We're like, I have no concept of the passage of time.
No, yeah, I totally agree. Now one thing with Aquaman and Amber Heard, and I said this when Paul, you know, I discussed on the DC show. I like the design of Aquaman and Amber Heard. What's her name?
Mira,
That's right.
Yeah, Mira.
I like the designs, but Jason Momoa and Amber Heard are like embarrassing in this. There's no chemistry. It just feels so green screen. I think Jason Momoa has a decent presence on screen, but it's whenever he's talking that it is not good. Like when he's just kind of eating up the screen a little bit, it's okay. And I think Amber Heard is kind of like that as well. They have a decent presence, but when dialogue is thrown at them and it's Atlantis dialogue, it's not good. They aren't the right ones to deliver
I
that.
feel like so many of the actors in this movie just don't have that much to work with. Like
Yeah.
I said, like, the majority of their lines are exposition.
Yeah.
It's hard to imbue like character or just, you know, like character moments for them because most of the time they're just explaining things.
Yeah.
Yeah. Also one thing so it's broken up into chapters, which in a sense I get, but for me almost in every film that does that, it's a detractor because it just reminds me of length. I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
we just watched 40 minutes, 50 minutes of chapter 1, and you get to like 2, 3, 4, 5. You're like, okay, I have 50 more minutes to watch.
I've never been more in pain than when I saw the words epilogue.
Oh yeah, brutal.
You
But
know,
like, and so like, I think there were times where I completely forgot about the length. I was like, I'm in it. It's paced well. But then as soon as it would cut to black and that chapter would be up, like, oh wait, I have another chapter to get through. Where I think if they just lost that, it would have been better.
yeah, you know, for me, when a movie does something like that and has very like distinct, like to the point where it literally tells you, like, okay, this is a new part, a new section of the movie, it has to like justify that. Like it has to really feel like a different thing is happening now. Like then in this, I felt like the chapter breakups didn't serve any purpose. Like you said, like they could have just not had it, and it would it's gone the same.
Yeah,
you know?
like I mean, if you look at like Lord of the Rings, those films are very long, 3.5, 4 hours at times. They don't have any chapters, and they're better for it, I think.
Yeah.
Mhm.
So, yeah. Well, what are some other things? I mean, there's plenty here.
Yeah, I want to talk about Dark Side
Okay.
really quick.
Yeah.
So, my favorite scene of the whole movie is, well, I don't know if it is or not. One of my favorite scenes is the dark side versus like all the ancient gods, all the ancient warriors of the past when they're explaining the mother boxes and Darkseid himself and all that.
Yeah.
So we see Darkseid get absolutely wrecked by the villain from
Wonder Woman.
So if he gets beaten by that guy and Wonder Woman beats that guy, why are we so like what makes Darkseid so scary exactly?
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's the big bad, but that's completely, and which would be fine if you're just telling me like whatever. But I get his ass beat to the point like, and this is like what might be the funniest part of the movie, that he forgets where Earth is.
I was just gonna bring it up.
For 100,000 years.
How did you forget the place that you got your ass handed to you where you left this important equation?
He shut it out, dude. It was that embarrassing.
Well, how'd you lose it?
Well, how long ago was it?
That like doesn't matter. How did you lose it? You have an advanced beam that can teleport people anywhere that they want to go, which would imply that you can punch in coordinates of some kind. How did you lose that information?
Paul,
you know, it doesn't even have to be him individually. Doesn't he have employees that would keep track of this?
What's Desaad doing?
Paul, I can't even remember what I had for breakfast this morning. What makes you think that this guy could remember everything? Didn't you say it was 2,000 years or something?
You remember that place. You remember the place that you got your ass beat.
Well, unless
it
was shutting it down, you know, shutting it deep down.
No, you don't lose that. he lost it like a pair of friggin' car keys or a sock, and it's insanity.
That's true.
And yeah, going back to something that Nick said, by the way, Darkseid, Desaad, and Steppenwolf, their voices,
they're all the same.
It's so, close your eyes, tell me who's who. Don't hear your name said, tell me who's who.
Yeah.
Who's speaking?
It strips them for me of a lot of character and a lot of humanity, you know, that has to underlie who this person is. Darkseid feels like Thanos did in the early MCU when he was just some dude in a chair.
Yeah,
that's just how it is.
Yeah. I did enjoy the what's up?
Except that we see him lose.
Oh yeah. I did enjoy the I don't know what you'd call it, like the tunnel sequence, like the action sequence about midway through where there's the water towards the end.
No, terrible.
No? Oh,
because everyone is taking so fucking long to get onto the bat thing, and more to the point, Wonder Woman can fly out. Cyborg could have just picked up Barry and flown out, and then Batman could have just bat grappled his way out. So why they even needed to climb on the stupid bat pod?
They're a team. Okay, but no, I agree.
They left Batman's fat ass inside of the ship when they all left to go and meet up with Superman. They weren't a team then.
That's true. But no, I mean more so the overall action sequence itself with the flying guys. I like that. I agree about the logic of it, but you know,
I like the action.
Yeah,
some of the action beats are fine. Like I enjoy some of it fine.
So, you know, I like okay. I'll defend Steppenwolf. I like Steppenwolf. I thought Steppenwolf was cool. It might just be because he has an axe. And I like anyone that has an axe, I think.
Yeah.
I thought he was neat.
I thought he was fine. He was he was pretty Ronan the Accuser for me.
Now one thing
he's more interesting than that.
Yeah. One thing that, and maybe I'm just because I'm not well versed in it, like the scene towards the beginning with the robbers or the terrorists, I didn't think that Wonder Woman actually killed people. Like there's the scenes where like a guy's thrown against a wall and his like head is like in the wall. It's like bludgeoned in. It's like I didn't think that Wonder Woman killed people.
Well, this is Zack Snyder's universe, and all heroes kill people, even if they say that they don't.
True.
Is that a Wonder Woman thing that she doesn't kill people?
I don't know. I just always thought that. I mean, I know that they kind of with Batman and Batman v Superman, he starts. I guess he kills people in that.
Yeah. Well, that's
so
like
does Superman.
that's like a point that's made though.
Yeah.
Is that
And I
this
mean,
Superman
maybe it's
kills
just
people.
because that's how I viewed Wonder Woman, or at least in the past films that we've had with her. I don't remember her killing people aside from like a creature or something, but I could be wrong on that.
I have a random Wonder Woman question. Where does her
Hmm.
stuff come from? Does it like materialize? Like where does her sword and her shield come from?
Oh, yeah, because she never like goes to an armory or seems to have brought it with her anywhere.
Yeah, but does she just conjure it?
No, she's got it somewhere in a trunk, I guess.
Yeah. But no,
Thing
for
on
me,
Twitter
but like,
also where like she's in the cave and she's wearing all white and it's like completely clean,
oh yeah,
Where she flew
even though she's been
from
tomb raiding.
she flew from Paris all the way to Greece in her work attire.
easy.
I like when she just like sneaks in, like nobody was watching it.
Yeah,
We see a couple like police there.
two cops. Yeah,
We see two cops
not looking at it.
at this place that is like the number one story on the news currently.
Mhm. Barney fifing it.
She just goes in through the back.
One thing that I found really frustrating that was a difference between the two versions, and this is a really weird nitpick. So in the Snyder cut, the new one, Zack Snyder's Justice League.
Definitive.
The French guy comes in and he just keeps talking fucking French over the broadcast for the longest time. And I'm like, shut up and let me hear
Terrible.
what they're saying. You came in, you said your bit, now shut up. I don't need to keep hearing you jabber at the same volume that the TV is being played at.
Yeah. Zach really blew it on that one.
It's a random little nitpick, I know, but like it drove me insane. The moment that he kept talking, I was like, shut up.
Yeah.
Okay. Now I need to discuss like honestly the one thing that bothered me the most out of anything.
Okay.
The inexplicable reveal that what's his name is Martian Manhunter.
Harry Lennox, yeah.
I don't understand the purpose.
Okay, so apparently that was supposed to be Green Lantern at some point in the narrative. And the studio was like, no, we have plans for, in specific, Jon Stewart, I guess.
Right.
And so he had to then go in and make it Martian Manhunter.
Well, no, just cut it. It makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
The worst one is when he visits her as the mom.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That is the worst. That's the worst one.
I'm talking about that.
That was amazing stuff. That was great. Yeah.
I thought I had lost my mind. I thought I was hallucinating. I was like, what just happened?
My favorite is when he's like, we need you, Lois.
It
more than ever.
It makes that character just so strange because it's like, what have you been doing?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Why hasn't he gotten involved in any of the other world?
Well, I could be wrong, but if I'm not mistaken, this is partially out of like some concept art that had happened at some point where this was maybe something that they were going to introduce in Man of Steel, but they ended up not doing anything with it. And so then they decided to like bring it back now.
Okay.
No, I stand by. Just cut that out.
No, yeah, it needs to go.
Yeah.
It's the most bizarre. That's what the movie ends on.
Yeah. Here's this character that you barely seen.
Yeah. Now, oh, Nikki froze.
Isn't that like the final scene?
Yeah.
Isn't that final scene where he goes and sees? I think I'm back.
Okay, I think you're good. You're a little slow.
I'm back.
But okay.
There we go.
Also, one thing. Now, it's kind of that I don't know if I actually am genuine about it. How what do you think of the whole Aquaman being like kind of like a rock star persona. Like he's like flinging his hair back. He has the whole walk out onto the dock with Hallelujah playing the water. Like, what do we think of that? Is that too goofy, or is it
You know,
good?
I like it.
I kind of like it
think
too.
I think that's fine.
Paul?
I did not like Jason Momoa in this role at first. I think it's fine.
I hate
Paul?
that he litters.
Yeah,
He
it's
does
fucked
litter.
up.
I do hate that he litters because I'm like, you are Aquaman. Do not litter,
He doesn't
especially
wanna
into
be.
the ocean.
That's true.
He doesn't want the responsibility.
Yeah, but you still should. If you're like pulling in people and being like, respect the storm, then
Yeah.
like, bro, don't throw a fucking liquor bottle in the water.
Just murdered a sea turtle.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
So
I-
also
Oh, go ahead.
as a random aside, I did some digging and just to talk about the 4:3 ratio.
I
He
did not
actually
like that.
he actually did. I found a quote going back to when the movie was like first being made, and he answered some sort of fan response on a social media platform, and he actually said that he shot the movie in a 1:8:5
Okay.
So all this bunk about like a 4:3 being his original vision, get it out of here. He shot the whole thing on
Yeah.
IMAX cameras in a 1:8:5 ratio, and it
Yeah.
looks better.
I bet. Because like with this, with a movie like what's a movie that does 4:3? Like
The Lighthouse
Lighthouse, great choice to do that. In this,
makes it feel claustrophobic.
yeah, and in this, it's there's scenes where they'll be standing together, and it's like they're barely fitting on screen. It's
Yeah,
like
they look
they're about
squished.
to be cut off or something. And
Yeah.
if they had done it wide, it would have given it more, to me, a more of an epic feel, because it's a 4-hour film.
Yeah.
It gets tiresome being
About
boxed in.
gods.
Yeah. And like for a frame of reference for people at home, like okay, so like a 4:3 is like The Lighthouse or this movie. A 1:8:5 to 1 is like the first Jurassic Park movie. It takes up the entirety of the screen. It's a nice big image. And then you get into like the 2s to 1s, which is when you get into like the cinema bars at the top and the bottom of the
Mhm.
screen.
Yeah.
Here's another nitpick. Why doesn't anyone else join this fight? Like, why don't all the Amazonians come? Why don't all the Atlanteans come?
The Amazonians, I think, are like technically stuck there by like a curse.
Oh,
I thought they all died. Weren't they trapped in that thing?
No, because
No,
remember, there's the army that
you-
comes charging down the
yeah.
hills.
Oh yeah.
see a ton of them later. I thought they all died too.
See, there's so much movie that you can't keep fucking track, and that's a problem.
No, I really lost track very, very quickly. Like I wanted to learn everything and be like, oh, I get this, but I didn't. It would really start to, like, I would forget that Amber Heard and Jason Momoa were in it. I'd lose. Then I'd remember, and then so on and so forth. I'm like, oh wait, that's right. We have this storyline to tie up.
No, yeah.
But
It's and like, it's stuff like the backstory of the terrorists that were shooting up the thing. I don't need that. They're terrorists. Wonder Woman stopped them. It's her introduction scene.
Yeah.
and they don't play a role at all in the actual story. It's just for her introduction that she's like stopping them.
Yeah. Now, of course, the runtime, it's 4 hours. I guess, although I don't want many superhero films to be this long, I'm not upset that it is this long, that there is a superhero film this long. I think I would be okay if done right. There are others like this from time to time. I think in this, if I had seen this in a theater, I don't think I would have enjoyed it. I think I would have been exhausted halfway
Yeah.
through.
You would
But-
definitely feel it more in a theater as opposed to like being in the comfort of your own home.
Yeah, but if like Christopher Nolan did like a 4-hour superhero film, I would be up for that, or somebody like that.
Well, like, honestly, for me, Endgame never feels long, and like it's a decently long movie. But I think that this movie gets a little bit overly long. Did it need to be 2 hours the way that the original cut was? No. It probably honestly should have been something more like 2:30, 2:45. And I'm totally game for a long movie, but it needs to justify itself constantly. Like every scene has to be, in service of something and not just explaining plot and moving plot, but it actually has to be justifying itself in a greater way than just like, oh, here's a thing that's happening.
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah. Um. Yeah. Well, now how does this compare to other DC films, recent DC films?
It's about the same. I think this is better than Batman v Superman, which I think just completely falls apart. um, I think Man of Steel, out of the three of them, I like Man of Steel the most. That's still a very frustrating movie for me. First Wonder Woman is mostly good. Birds of Prey, I like. Yeah, that's it.
Paul, what about you?
I don't like any of them. Like I guess some of them fine enough. Like Shazam's okay, Shazam's
Shazam.
I do
I
like
like
Shazam a
Shazam.
lot. Wonder Woman's good, but like Wonder 84, shit.
Oh, Paul, come on.
Batman versus Superman, dreadful. Man of Steel, awful. This one, no good. The other one, not very good either. Suicide Squad, awful.
I'd love to give me the director's cut of that, the Ayer cut,
no,
please.
no. And that's the other
Make
thing.
that
Like
4 hours.
we also just need to stop this. Like this is also just like a fucking disease. Like let's just let a movie be and move on. People get their vision shit on, fucked over by a studio left, right, and center. And Zack Snyder even cried foul about this back when Sucker Punch came out and was like, the studio wouldn't let me release the version that I wanted. So no, let's stop this whole thing. I hate it. No, I hate the whole thing.
Yeah, if we can talk about like the campaign to get this like made.
Oh yeah.
As a start, I think you have a part of that fan base that it comes from an earnest place, like a relatively innocent place. And a good amount of them pushed it for a good cause with like suicide prevention and everything because of the situation. But then you have the loudest part of the fan base, which is pure toxicity, which is like straight harassment when they're just like flooding Warner Brothers and all related things, just flooding their socials. With
who has the time for that? Jeez.
And I think it really proves, because now that they're never going to be satisfied, right? Because they got what they wanted, kind of, I guess, for Star Wars. They did it for Sonic the Hedgehog. Now they're doing it for DC. And we're less than a week after this movie's out, and they're already, demanding restore the whole Snyderverse now, right? Like, let him release his other. Said that they're not moving ahead with any of that.
Yeah.
It's very strange to me, because like logistically it can't happen. Like half the cast won't come back. Ray Fisher definitely not coming back after everything that he's revealed about his experience.
Yeah.
Making this movie. Ben Affleck is not coming back. Henry Cavill is not coming back. I'm not sure. I don't know. It is such a strange sense of entitlement.
Yeah.
That comes with this. That always, like I said, like the loudest part of it, like, is just so toxic.
Yeah.
It's scary.
I agree.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, anything else in particular about this one? I'm trying to think if there's any other cast members or anything worth noting.
I like Cyborg's dad.
I do too.
I like Cyborg's dad. I thought his death was stupid and pointless.
Yeah.
And there's also no way in criminy hell that he thought that he was heating it enough that they would be able to track it.
No, it makes sense. Yeah.
I'll reiterate that the lack of Lawrence Fishburne really hurts.
He was fun. He was fun.
He's the best part of Man of Steel and Batman v Superman. So good.
I guess my final thoughts on this movie is that I feel like the Achilles heel, the big issue for so many of these movies is that at the end of the day, I don't think that these writers, in the case of Man of Steel and BVS, it was David Goyer, who was just dreadful.
Love that guy.
This one was written by Zack Snyder and Chris Terrio, Ben Affleck's writing partner, and Chris Terrio's writing resume is kind of speckled.
He did Argo.
You don't like the Rise of Skywalker?
And I think that
did he? Oh, he did that.
Mm-hmm.
Oh,
He's
man.
responsible.
Sorry about that, bud.
I think that these people don't ultimately understand the characters, and I think that they've said as much in interviews that they've done before. And so I think that their whole thing about like it's for the fans is disingenuous, but that's beside the point. I think that their whole writing style is that they don't really know these characters. They don't really have any kind of dedication to them. And then I think that they put a lot of actors in the parts that don't really know what to do with them and end up getting lost in them. And that's why I think that Gal Gadot probably does her best in the Wonder Woman films, because at least Patty Jenkins has some sort of vision of what to do with that character. And I think that's why Ray Fisher ends up seeming lost as Cyborg. I think that that's why Henry Cavill's Superman never formalized into anything for me. I think that that's why Lex Luthor in BVS seems clownish. So I just think at the core, one of the big issues with this movie and with this franchise across the entire board is that a lot of these people just don't know what it is that they're really writing and aren't formalizing any of their ideas in a way that makes the characters as compelling as they should be.
That's what it comes down to at the end of the day, is that it's all about character. And you inevitably have to compare what Marvel does versus what DC does, because they're doing a very similar thing. And if nothing else, what Marvel gets right for me personally is always the character. They always nail the character, even if the story around that character isn't spectacular. So they always really get into making the character feel and that you care. And for me, it is very hard. I feel it is very hard to care about any of the characters or the story in these DC movies, or at least in this one.
Yeah,
it's just not there for me.
Yeah, I agree. I think even so, in a weird way, I like Marvel, and I like that it's fairly, I don't know, contained or fairly polished. But in a way, I kind of like the ambitious at times failure of DC. Like I kind of like the mess at times. I think there are times where they really mess up, but there are times where even if they don't totally nail it, like in this, I think at times I enjoy the ambition, just the raw, wild ambition of this. Like there are, like this film I prefer over some Marvel ones, and I kind of wish that at times Marvel would go so far out there, even if they don't totally nail it. There are things in this movie that I appreciate that Marvel doesn't necessarily do that often.
Yeah, and that really comes down to like which studio is producing these films, right? And Warner Brothers definitely, I feel like, I don't want to say they have like more, they allow more creative freedom, but they kind of, at least compared to a company like Disney.
Yeah.
I feel like they definitely allow at least a bit more of creative freedom.
Yeah.
I know some directors for the MCU and everything have said that they've been given like total freedom, but at the end of the day, even the most like out there Marvel movies still very much feel formatted in a certain way.
Yeah. All right. Anything else about Zack Snyder's Justice League?
Fuck the Snyderverse. It's not happening. Don't ask for it anymore.
Oh, I will. I'm going to go on Twitter right after this. I'm going to plague Nick's Twitter with requests.
That's fine.
Yeah. All right. Well, out of 5 stars, guys.
Nick?
2.5.
All right.
Nice.
Paul?
A 1.
I'll go 3.
Generous.
Yeah.
Overly
It's
so.
because Jared Leto's Joker shows
Yeah. If there had been one more Joker scene, it's going 4 stars, guys.
up.
But yeah, well, cool. I mean, that was a good talk. So I guess that's about it, guys. Anything else you want to mention about anything recent or anything in particular?
Black Widow's coming to Disney Plus. They finally caved.
I saw that,
Mhm.
as well as Cruella.
As well as Cruella and as well as Luca, which is not getting a theatrical release at all. That's the new Pixar movie.
Oh, okay.
So that's going to be 2 Pixar movies in a row. That one's straight to Disney Plus,
Yeah.
which is a little upsetting.
Yeah.
We'll see how that goes.
The
Yeah.
Luca decision is very strange.
Yeah. Paul, anything for you, man?
No, I can't say that there's anything much really to add. I on an unrelated note, I have been just sort of on my own accord with my wife watching the Marvel movies, and we've been working on a bracket
Oh,
of the movies so far as we watch them. We're doing them in kind of a hybrid chronological order. It's not what the official Disney Plus app says is chronological, but it's close enough.
cool. We might have to post that on social media at some point.
Once
Yeah.
once we finish round 1, I'll post it.
Okay.
We've still
cool.
got a long way to go.
Okay. Cool. All right. Well, yeah, I guess that is about it for the show. Oh,
restore the Rodriguez verse.
that's sick. That's sick.
My
I'll
God.
just plug that.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I would like some more Lita movies.
I would too, actually.
You're the only 2.
Paul, maybe next
Not
week
true.
review Alita.
Maybe.
Yeah.
Paul, have you seen Alita Battle Angel?
No.
I highly recommend it.
Oh,
All
yeah.
right, I'll think about it.
Yeah, big time. Yeah. So now, I guess more seriously, next week, Paul, I know we've laid out some options. Anything in particular striking your interest?
Let me pull up the document real quickly.
All right.
Dude, Godzilla versus Kong comes out.
I think that that's what we might end up doing.
Oh, Christ.
Boogie down.
Yeah, there it is.
All right. So, yeah, we'll bite the bullet for that one, I suppose, unless anything better comes along.
No, I think that we should just go full on into that one. I think that that's our best bet.
Okay. Cool. So yeah, we'll
Henry, if you could watch this fucking 4-hour piece of shit, then you can sit there and you can watch Godzilla versus Kong and like it, damn it.
that's true.
Educate yourself.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you, Nick. Cool. Yeah, we'll shoot for that next week. And again, you can stay updated on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram at FilmBuds. Also, TheFilmBuds.com. And don't forget to check out the merch. Get some hoodies just in time for summer. And yeah, you can email us questions at TheFilmBudsPodcast@gmail.com. And all of that is in the show notes. And since this is going to be on YouTube, I guess we didn't say that at the beginning. You can comment if you have any questions or just say what you thought of the movie. You know, would love to hear from you.
You can go and tell me how wrong I am.
Yeah, please. And cool. Well, Nick, man, as always, thank you for taking the time. It's nice to have you on.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me back after my horrendous connection and dog barking in the background the entire time.
You're good, dude. You're good. And Paul, as always, man, thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Everyone go and check out Sane Show as well. We just had actually a composer from like the independent film scene in Detroit come on. So
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
That's awesome. All right. Well, yeah, we hope you enjoyed it as much as we did, and we'll see you next time.